Hi, this is Jack Cluth.
And I'm Lauren Werscher.
And we are Ravings and Reviews. Now, Lauren, if I had even 2 brain cells, I would have had us review this movie on Friday. Do you know why that is?
I don't know.
Because that will have been 28 days since our first podcast we've done together.
Oh,
It is
okay.
currently the 24th day. And I
shoot.
didn't think about that.
Wow.
But yeah. No,
That's
yeah.
really smart.
I know. It's almost more annoying that we're like so close to it when we review this, but
Dang. Wow. Okay, well, if you couldn't get it from those context clues, the movie that we are reviewing this week is 28 Days Later.
yes, this was my film recommendation.
Yeah, from last Monday.
From last Monday. I had not seen this movie, and Lauren had not seen this movie.
No, this is a deep first dive for both of us.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, this is the first movie that I've recommended on the podcast that I have not seen.
Oh, okay.
Because I recommended Lights Out and Texas Chainsaw, and I had seen both of those before. So when I was trying to come up with the idea for this episode, I'm like, I should go in, me and Lauren should both go in having being on a level playing field, having never seen this. I'm like
no nostalgia filter, no previous knowledge,
yes.
just cold turkey, we're going in.
Yes.
So, I guess we could start off with that. First thoughts. What do you think about this?
First thoughts. I loved it.
You said that with not a lot of conviction.
I absolutely loved it. It took me about 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes to get fully in. And we can discuss this later in our critiques. I didn't particularly care for the first 2.5 minutes.
I can agree with that.
Once you see the title that says 28 Days Later, which is also like a passing of time reference, that's basically when I thought the movie became great.
Yeah.
And yeah, since that point on, from the movie, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, this movie was really, really good. I liked it a lot. It's definitely not one that I was expecting. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not really one for zombie movies.
Okay.
I'm not, I think it's particularly because the concept of the apocalypse terrifies me.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like, it is a very terrifying concept. Like, the entire world, has changed. There is no laws, no order. Literally every situation is life or death. Survival is the only thing that matters. Like, you don't know how prepared you're going to be for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And then even worse, like, you don't know who's your ally and who's your enemy. Like, everything is just crazy and scared, and no one has any control over the situation. It's very terrifying to me.
No, yeah, 100%. And I can understand why you might be scared of this movie, because that movie deals with essentially everything that you just said that you're scared about. I mean, literally from the opening shot, the character is unprepared for what's happened. He doesn't know what's happening, and he's by himself.
Yeah.
You are immediately... You're sympathetic to this guy.
Yeah, you're like,
oh my
dude,
God.
that's not fun.
Yeah.
that's rough, buddy.
Yeah. So, really quick, what other like zombie movies have you seen? Just anything that comes to the top of your head.
Not really any other zombie movies, but I did watch The Walking Dead a lot when I was in middle school.
Okay.
So that's really my only other experience with like zombies and like that kind of thing. And I was going to talk about this too. Those two they're very different in terms of how they perceive like the undead or like how that works. Like these two medias have very different interpretations of it.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I was asking that because I've seen a few. Again, I'm not like a zombie horror fanatic by any means. So I've seen like World War Z with Brad Pitt.
Oh.
I saw Train to Busan, and I saw #Alive a few weeks ago. And I can easily say, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is the best zombie movie I've ever seen.
I can agree with that. I mean, not that I've seen a lot of other
I was going to say, I don't know
movies.
how much competition is up against
Not really
it.
a lot of competition, but definitely this movie was very, very good and did a very good job at keeping me interested while also scared, while also rooting for the main characters, and like every good thing that happens in the movie. Like this was good.
Yeah.
So, Do you want to talk about some of the cinematography things that you noticed?
Yeah, sure. Cinematography, while it was very low res.
Very, very,
very low res, and that is intentional.
Yeah.
It was shot on digital before shooting on digital was the mainstream way of shooting a film.
Mm-hmm.
So it was still like in development. So if you shot on digital, that was a stylistic choice to do because the technology hadn't advanced better than just actual film. And just different types of cameras. So they shot this on digital intentionally to give it a much more kind of gritty, low quality, kind of gross, grungy sort of vibe.
Yeah, because we should mention, this movie came out in 2002.
Yes.
This movie is as old as me. If you had gone into this movie without knowing the date, you could have assumed that this movie came out around the same time that, like, the movie we reviewed last week, Taxi Driver, came out, like, with the camera quality, like,
honestly,
everything.
yeah,
and like the sound quality and
when you went into the movie, did you know the date that it had premiered?
Yes, I did, because like
Okay.
it's because I watched it on Amazon Prime and it comes up with like the information's like 28 days later, 2002.
Yeah.
So I knew it, but I was also kind of confused. I'm like, this movie is from 2002, but it looks like this.
Yes, it looks very very crusty.
Yeah, I feel like it works though. I feel like
totally
it makes it look really authentic and real. I mean, I wouldn't really say like found footage, but it's still very like it's got the quality of like home video.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we've been over this point a lot, just kind of just with the different movies we reviewed. Texas Chainsaw had that vibe.
Had that vibe.
And Evil Dead had that sort of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one does too. And again, for those reasons that we mentioned last time, partly budgetary. This movie had a very small budget.
How much did it have?
$5 million was the budget.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's pennies in comparison to some other things. So, and again, just like with the Texas Chainsaw, just like with Evil Dead, the low quality of the movie really enhances the vibe of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I should go back to this because I was going to talk about it before, but this movie was directed by Danny Boyle.
Yes.
Who, the only other major directing credit I found for him was the new movie recently called Yesterday, where the Beatles did not exist.
Yep.
And that's about it. But
yeah,
I know
that's his weakest movie easily.
I feel like
I've seen 127 Hours. Do you know that story?
I did not notice that one.
Yeah, about the hiker that gets his arm trapped in a boulder. It's based on a real life story, and that movie that he directed was very good.
Okay, I didn't know if that was like anywhere like near this kind of movie. I was just looking at like face value. What movies of this guy do I recognize?
Oh no,
and that was the only one.
No, totally.
But, yeah.
I mean, that's Yesterday is probably the most like mainstream, biggest movie he's ever made. So.
Yeah. So this movie was produced by Robert Howe and Andrew McDonald, and it was written by Alex Garland, who has written a lot of other sci-fi that I can't really name off the top of my head right now, but he definitely stuck with this genre as he continued his career in writing.
I am a big fan of Alex Garland.
All
I
right.
think he's a great screenwriter. And I actually didn't know that he had wrote the screenplay before going into this. So I was watching and I'm like, wow, man, I love this. And then I look at the credits. I'm like, oh, I guess that's why. He's great, man.
Yeah.
I love him.
And I guess some of the biggest stars of this movie, at least that I found, this movie, the protagonist is played by Cillian Murphy. And this movie also features Christopher Eccleston, who holds a very special place in my heart because he also plays the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who.
Okay.
And I was a big fan of Doctor Who when I was younger, and the man just holds a very, very special place in my heart, even though he's basically the antagonist of this movie.
Yeah.
Other than the zombies. So, but yeah, I mean...
another actor that's in this movie that I have a soft spot for is Brendan Gleeson. He played Frank in the movie, the father.
Oh my God, Frank!
There are certain actors, man, that just for no reason I just adore. J.K. Simmons is one of them. I love anything he does in any movie ever, and Brendan Gleeson is one of them. He played Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter franchise.
That's why he looked familiar. Okay, yep. I was thinking about it. I was looking at him, and I'm like, You look so familiar. Why do I know Mad-Eye Moody? Okay, got it.
Mad-Eye Moody. And then he was also in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs from the Coen brothers on Netflix, and he did great in there, too. So, yeah, I really loved seeing him in this movie. A lot of good British actors in the film.
Yeah, really. We should say this movie is British. Mm-hmm. I guess we can technically say that this is our first foreign film we reviewed on the podcast.
Sure, I suppose.
Because, I mean, technically, this movie, it's not set in the U.S. It doesn't follow the certain U.S. film tropes. So, yeah. I feel like, going back to the cinematography conversation, I feel like the shots in this movie are very simplistic and to the point, almost literally. And I feel like they're effective in what they're trying to do. Like, there's no super big close-ups or super big pan shots or anything like that. It's just very, very simplistic and shows you what you need to see at this time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very effective.
It is. And they find interesting ways of shooting what otherwise would be kind of a mundane scene.
Basically.
They have to fill up gas for their car at a certain point, and he just places the camera, like, within the gas truck that they see, like, underneath of it. Yeah. So it's, like, bordering the top and bottom of the frame of the camera, and you see the family getting out of the car. And it's just interesting little shots like that just make it extra special, besides just, like, a, shot reverse shot kind of thing. Yes, I do like the cinematography a lot for the most part.
Yeah, this when you were talking about that, the scene that came to mind is like one of the first scenes in the movie when Jim, who is the protagonist, wakes up for the first time and is basically roaming around this city. Roaming around the city, just walking in just a pair of blue scrubs, just wondering where the heck did everybody go.
Yeah,
and it just like there's trash on the streets, there's everything everywhere, and I mean, the cinematography is very, very minimal in those scenes. But I feel like if they had done it any way other than they did it, it would just look boring and mundane. Like, he's literally just walking. But they make it seem so interesting. Like, the combination of the lighting, the shots,
extreme
the music.
Wide shots. Yes. There's so many different aspects of this I want to go into. But yeah.
Gosh, yes, the music.
The opening, like you were talking about, is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's kind of become a, like, I don't know if I want to say cult. It's become a very famous scene within, like, the horror community. Everybody knows the scene of him waking up. Spoiler alert. This is right at the beginning of the movie. He's in a coma, which is why the movie's called 28 Days Later. He wakes up 28 days after he goes into a coma, and he wakes up in the aftermath of a zombie apocalypse, essentially.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't know what's happening, so he wakes up and he leaves the hospital, and London is just completely deserted. And the camera work you were talking about is just extreme wide shots of him walking around the city. And it does such a good job at making him feel so, like, small and helpless, like, in the grand scheme of everything. You see all these different buildings and all this trash on the sidewalk, and he's just this little blue speck in, like, a patient dressing gown walking around.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also some really good effects used in this movie. Like, not necessarily, like, looking at the more, like, practical side of everything. Like, there are some really, really good pyrotechnics in this movie.
Oh, yeah, there are.
They're very, very good fire effects, big explosions. I mean, I don't know if I would consider this... I mean, would you consider this kind of, like, an action horror movie, or... I mean, there are definitely some...
There are action
sequences.
Not in, like, an action film trope kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would suppose you would call them action sequences.
Yeah, because there are a few. This movie is definitely a lot more higher paced or, like, faster paced than some of the other movies we've covered. Most of them are very, like, a slow burn until you get to the climax. This one is, like, there's no buffer. Like, you go straight into it, and the energy is kept up all the way through the end.
Oh, yeah. This is a 2-hour-long movie.
2 hours.
I didn't get bored once.
No, yeah, me neither.
I did not get bored
I was
even
not
once.
bored at all.
The time melted away.
Yeah. Like, I'm just looking at the time go by, and I'm like, wow, this has managed to keep my attention for this long.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Yeah.
I really like the music, too. We're going to need to talk about the music.
I was just going to say that. I was literally just going to say, oh, you mentioned music before.
Yeah.
Oh, the music in this
music
movie slaps.
Yes.
It is so good. It's one of the best horror soundtracks that I've heard in a long time.
It's not a typical like orchestral score. It's more of like if they got like a rock band to come in and record some backing tracks for the stuff that's happening.
Very much.
And in some senses you'd kind of be like, like why would you have this rock like modern riff in like behind this movie that's like supposed to be very dramatic and very, you know, serious, but I feel like it fits. It gives like a very like punk lone wolf kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it. I just like it.
It gives the movie a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
Part of the movie that I like, or part of the soundtrack I like the most, is a lot of the songs, they're very like build-up-y. They're very kind of low-key, just some light drums and a little guitar, like 2 notes in the background. And then as the scene will progress, the music will get more and more intense. I really, really love the music in this movie.
It's really, really good.
Mm-hmm. From the first scene that he's walking around London by himself, the music is on. I'm like, oh yeah, I really vibe with this. This is great.
We really vibe with this, yeah.
And another like a reason that it sounds so like kind of rocky. That was a very like early 2000s thing.
Yeah, that's true. It was the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was
that was the style of the music.
Yeah, but in a lot of movies I've seen from the early 2000s when they use that, it's really annoying.
Oh yeah.
In the movie 127 Hours, that was also directed by Danny Boyle. That was one of the biggest complaints I had.
Really?
I thought the music was so obnoxious at points. Sometimes it was really good, but then, like we're talking about, it turned really rocky and riffy for like it did not fit. In this movie, it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You mentioned before that you said like this when we were talking about the cinematography. You had said that there were things that you didn't like about the shots. Did you want to wait till we talked about the plot for those, or?
Let's leave for the break on a positive note,
okay,
and then when we come back, I'll go into a few minor critiques that I had of the film.
Sounds good.
All right.
We will be right back.
Stay tuned.
All right, we are back.
Okie dokie.
And it is time to get into some of the plot of this movie.
The plot of this movie is fantastic.
It's fantastic. I mean, you were talking before about how much you loved Alex Garland and his writing, and I wholeheartedly agree. This movie is written very, very well.
It's written beautifully, yeah.
Yes.
Ironically enough for a zombie movie.
Ironically enough for a zombie movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The concept alone of waking up after the zombie apocalypse has already taken place.
Yeah.
Usually if you're going to watch a zombie movie, almost always it's like, oh, the beginning of the outbreak and nobody knows what to do and there's one person infected, 2 people infected. Oh no, my town's overrun with zombies. Old lady Smith just got turned into a zombie. It's not like that in this movie.
Yeah, they literally skip over the entire like initial point and just start you from Jim, the protagonist's point of view.
Yes.
Of waking up in a hospital and realizing, oh my God, everyone's gone.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way to start it.
Yeah, and his confusion too. Like when he first encounters an undead person, he's like, "Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you like this?"
Yeah.
And then, when he gets rescued and everything, and he's just like, "Tell me what's going on."
Yep.
That all felt so real.
It was great. Yeah. Yep. So the story just follows Jim. He woke up from a coma after the zombie apocalypse has taken place. There's no government. There's no one looking out for them. There's no immediate relief efforts that they can see.
No.
He gets saved from some zombies by 2 people, Selena and Matthew. Mark.
Selena and Mark.
Selena and Mark. Okay. And they explained the situation to him.
Selena is much more important than Mark, though. We will say.
Yes. Yeah. They explain the situation. There's no immediate help coming. They're on their own, and from there it is just a blast to watch them survive in this zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and they do meet other characters along the way. Like we mentioned before the break, there's Frank and his daughter Hannah. Yes. Who they meet after having to leave their safe house and have to go out into the world and survive. I I really love Frank and Hannah. They're such a cute daddy-daughter duo.
Their dynamic was really well done in the movie.
And also, we should have mentioned this before. Spoiler warning here.
Yes.
We are going to cover a lot of the major plot points of this movie, which do include major character death.
Yes. So if you haven't seen this movie, 100% go watch it.
Yes.
I think it is fantastic.
I agree. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying with Frank and Hannah, their relationship was just amazing.
Sorry, Diana struck and the lights went out from the hallway.
It's gonna keep happening. No, their relationship works great, and I wrote down in my notes here, the movie elevates itself far beyond the typical zombie movie, where it's like, you know, the characters are just, in other zombie movies, they'll just be like, oh, I love my family. I have to save them. I have to get my family out of danger. That is an aspect in this film, but it's done way better than I think the majority of other movies, because I actually cared what was going to happen. And when ultimately Frank changes.
He changes. Yeah, no, he. What else, something else I found really interesting is like the virus, I guess you could call it. I think it's rage. It's referred to as rage.
Yeah.
That's the infection is what it's considered. It's transmitted through blood.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as infected blood can get into your body, you will get infected within like 10 to 20 seconds.
Yeah,
which was very, very surprising.
It adds much more of an urgent
like a sense
sense.
Of urgency. Yeah.
It's not like a bite and then you have like, oh, he's got a 2-minute period of time. It's you get blood in your eye, nose, mouth, and you are going to become a zombie.
Yeah. And it's immediate.
And it's immediate. And the zombies also have this really, really gross thing that they do. They just kind of vomit blood at random points in the movie.
It's so gross because, like, I have, I think it's emetophobia. I don't like vomit. It's gross,
sure, yeah.
And I don't like it, so every single time I was like, nope, covering my face, get away from the screen. That's icky.
Yeah, no, I thought that was like a cool weapon that the virus made these people have. It's just like, it's their way of spreading the virus. I thought that was a cool little touch.
But yeah, we should say Frank at some point gets blood in his eye.
Yeah.
And he is converted into one of the infected.
Yes.
And I actually don't think we can talk about this later when we talk about the trope of zombies in like media and film. They were not referred. I don't know if they were referred to once as zombies. They were referred to as the infected.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that.
They are never referred to as zombies. And most often in zombie in like apocalypse kind of things, they're not referred to as zombies.
Yeah, well, it's almost like borderline whether they're zombies or not, because really in the movie they're just sick people.
Yeah.
And they can starve to death if they get shot. They go down, not always.
Not always.
The amount of rage can propel them a little bit longer, but they're basically just sick people. But they're people that they don't They act like a zombie.
They act like they snarl. They don't speak verbally. They don't really have any sort of brain functions. I mean, I guess if we're talking about it, we might as well talk about it now. But I wanted to talk about like the difference between the zombies of other media versus this, because I saw a stark difference between like when I watched The Walking Dead in middle school versus watching this movie.
Yes.
Like the Walking Dead zombies, not to diss The Walking Dead at all. The show is very good and I appreciate it a lot. It's a very good show. But the zombies were so much slower. They were so much slower. They didn't have the same sort of like brain functions. They were just like eat human. Yeah. That's their one goal. But the infected people, just like you said, they're infected people. Like they move real fast.
Yeah.
They run so fast and they move with determination. They don't just stumble like most other zombies in other media. Like they are determined and they have a goal.
I did some reading about this movie's influence on just the horror genre in general, and this movie it sparked a big like zombie genre revival. This movie, from what I can find, there might be examples in other lesser known zombie movies, but this movie really made the fast-moving zombie. Like, if it didn't invent it, then it made it mainstream, 100%. Because before this point, most zombies were the slow shuffling kind.
Yeah, because I keep thinking back to, like, Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Where they, like, those zombies don't run. They basically, like, stand and, like, just kind of stumble.
Yep.
Like, they ain't running nowhere.
No, yeah.
But these zombies, they will run after you no matter where you are. And
Yeah.
they run fast.
Yeah, this movie really pioneered the zombies are actually, like, really scary.
Yeah, they are.
It made them fast. It made them dangerous. It's not just walk at a fast speed and you might be okay. And it's not like, oh, you need literally 100 of them to, swarm you and bite you. One of these guys and you're in big trouble.
Yeah, one and you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It is really, really strange, like how this movie affected the media's perception of zombies.
Totally, yeah.
So, what other scenes do you think stand out to you from this movie that you want to talk about?
Basically the whole end scene.
Oh my gosh.
There's a point in the movie, and it's not the end scene. About 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through the movie, they get to this safe house compound that they heard over the radio. And basically for the whole movie, it's been them trying to get to this house because they think it's their safe point. Well, eventually they get to this house and they find out it's not their safe point.
It's not.
It is a group of military men with guns, and they have been trying to lure people there under the guise of we're going to rebuild civilization.
We should probably put a trigger warning here for sexual assault because it's bad. This point of this movie basically took me from funny apocalypse, kind of funny. I mean,
I was gonna say I wasn't laughing a whole lot, but yeah,
not during this part. But there are some funny parts of this movie.
There are some funny parts,
like
of the movie,
like this whole scene in the supermarket where they're just going around like this perfectly this perfectly untouched supermarket. Not to go off on a tangent, but there's this just perfectly untouched supermarket, and these four complete strangers just kind of go in and start shopping like nothing happened.
I loved it. I thought that was such a cute scene, and especially the music in that scene as well. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, it was such a good scene, and it was really, really funny. But yeah, up until like the part, I would say this is kind of split into 2 acts, I think you would say.
I would agree.
I would say like the beginning up until Frank's death is the first act, and then when they get to the compound, oops, sorry, I hit the mic. When they get to the compound until the end of the movie is the second act. The entire second act, it definitely follows the typical trope that musical theater does, where like Act 1, very happy, very joyous, very, well, not necessarily in this movie, but like comparatively, like a bit more lighthearted, a bit more action-filled, more hopeful. And then Act 2 is just bad.
Yeah, there's
just very, like, everything bad that could happen will happen.
Yeah, I can't really agree that the first half was lighthearted.
No.
I'm
just thinking, like, in the terms of like what things were happening in the movie in the first act based on the second act.
Essentially, they have a goal in the first act.
They have a goal in the first act.
They have they have an idealized version of we will be safe when we get here.
Yeah.
And then the second act is we're in even more danger now that we're here.
We're even more danger. Yeah. So what happens, and the reason why I stopped to put a trigger warning, is basically their entire goal in having, or in this compound that is run by Christopher Eccleston's character, who I mentioned before, is basically they want to lure in women and procreate.
Yes, he promised. They were at a different point. They were at like a blockade zone, and his men were threatening to leave, and he promised them women if they would stay.
That scene
and
was
they changed
so
to
gross.
a compound.
That scene was so gross.
It really, this is something I love in movies, or especially like horror movies, when they have this central aspect. Like, yeah, it's a zombie movie. Zombies are horrifying. And then they subvert it to the point that it's like, yeah, maybe zombies are not the scariest thing in this movie.
Yeah.
It's the people. It's the people in the film that are the scariest, in my opinion.
Basically, like some of his men, what is his character's name?
I cannot remember.
And it's some of the general's men are basically just borderline creepers.
Oh,
like,
100%.
They are so weird. Mm-hmm. And they act so strangely compared to it almost feels like because of the apocalypse, they feel like, no rules. I can do whatever I want. And then, like, yes, because you are here, woman, you are mine. I'm like, no, that's not. Ugh.
Yeah, it's really gross. It takes it from a yeah, this is a zombie movie to no, this is like analyzing the freaking human condition of like how far people will go in situations when society is collapsed.
I've had movies where a scene can get a visceral reaction from me. Not the least of which have been movies that I've reviewed for this podcast.
Yeah.
But but I think that scene with where he finally reveals to Jim the general reveals his plan to Jim, and how creepy and gross it all is. That is the most visceral reaction that a movie has given me that doesn't involve any sort of like gore or blood.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
It's extremely disturbing, and it only gets worse.
And it's a route I was not expecting the movie to take.
I was not expecting it to go that way.
And when I say that, I mean it in the best possible sense. Like I was not expecting this to become part of the conflict, but once it did, you know, I was in because like we established earlier, you like all these characters. You like Jim, Selena, and then Hannah. Hannah has just watched her dad die, but she's still with Jim and Selena. And the general tells Jim why what his plans are with his friends. And when Jim even slightly backs away in protest and tries to take them away, tries to escape.
He gets the butt of a gun in his face.
Yeah, he gets knocked out and taken out into the woods for execution with another soldier that was protesting what they were about to do.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah.
The scene with them before their execution, where he's just rambling on and on about how about he doesn't agree with the general. He doesn't believe that he believes that there's a way out of here. Because it helped to remember that like the infection is only in England.
Yes.
Like everything overseas, like in the U.S., like they're all fine, as far as we know. Like there's really no context about like where everything's happening or like what's happening. But like as far as we know, the infection is centralized in London. Yeah,
it's theorized that the world, after they learned about this, they basically made England an island for the dead, and none of the other countries were going to help or intervene at all. They quarantined off England. That's what's kind of implied. That's what the characters start to speculate. It's never a concrete thing, but
I mean that's what makes sense.
Right.
But yeah. This scene or this movie takes a very, very strange and unexpected turn towards into the second act, and I mean, and it doesn't even. I mean, do you think it ends on a high note, or do you think? I mean, I felt kind of mediocre about the ending.
Really, I thought it ended quite well. I didn't have any problems with the ending.
I didn't really know what. It felt kind of ambiguous, like. Basically what happens at the end of the movie, they do escape the compound.
Yes.
All three, Selena, Jim, and Hannah all make it out, even though Jim was shot in the stomach. And
they basically turn everyone in the compound into a zombie.
Basically.
Which was it was very fun to watch.
Very, very fun to watch because they're all like terrible
intense,
people.
Yeah. Except there was one guy that's like, Jim walks into the room.
Oh my gosh,
and
that
he's
guy.
Like, it's like the one other decent soldier, and he's like, I don't have any bullets, and Jim just goes out the window, and the zombies end up.
He walks into the room, leaves the door open, and jumps out the window.
Yeah,
like just leaves the guy to die, and we're like, come on, man, like he was the one good one.
Yeah, he was like the only other good one.
Yeah. It's that entire end of the movie was absolutely unexpected to me.
Yeah,
I was
totally
not expecting it.
Totally bonkers.
But another scene that gave me a very emotional reaction was actually at the beginning of the movie. It was
I think I know what you're talking about.
It was because we didn't talk about this, but Mark actually doesn't make it to the second half of the movie.
Oh, that's what I want to talk about as well.
Yeah, I won't talk about it, but yeah, this because it happens after this scene. But basically, Jim because he just woke up. He's like, "Where is my family? I want to go visit my family."
As anybody would be.
As anybody would, because they were wondering about they want to know if they're safe. And so, Selena and Mark take him to make sure to go with him to his parents' house. and he goes upstairs to find his parents in their bed, dead from, I think it's a drug overdose.
Yep,
or they offed themselves before the virus could get them.
With the use of alcohol and drugs. Yeah, and because I was expecting there to be some sort of like zombie jump scare, or
me
that
too.
like one
Me
of them
too.
would like suddenly sit up. It's way more sad than that.
It is so sad, especially since they like passed out on each other, and his mother is holding a childhood picture of Jim.
Yeah.
With writing on the back that said, I'm gonna have to paraphrase because I don't remember, but it's like,
we left you asleep.
We left you asleep. Don't wake up.
Yeah, we left you asleep. Now we're coming to join you. Don't wake up. Oh my God, that last line is so scary.
I literally, like, I had to pause the movie and just stare at it. I was like,
yeah,
dude,
it's really powerful.
It is incredibly powerful. And like, I would expect Jim to just like break down, like, end of movie, like he can't recover from this, but he actually, like, he cries, but he is still able to recover from it. I wouldn't be able to recover from something like that.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
I suppose it's just a juxtaposition of like hearing your parents like wish that you don't wake up from your coma because something even worse is happening on the outside. It's so scary.
Yeah.
No, that is an extremely effective scene.
Did you want to talk about your gripes about this movie? Or do you want to talk about Mark first?
I want to talk about Mark really first, just because that was another part I was totally not expecting. Mark gets a drop of blood, and his arm gets scraped, and he looks up at Selena and Jim with fear. He knows that he's been infected.
He knows he's gone.
And Selena, without hesitating, hacks him to death with her machete.
Yeah!
It was very, like, brutal, and I was very much, like, not expecting it, because Selena and Mark are introduced together, so you think they're kind of friends.
Yeah.
And she doesn't hesitate twice.
And then she tells Jim later on, she says, if you get bitten or if you get infected, I will not hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
So she is very, very, she's very serious about this.
Yeah, I guess it just took me by surprise, especially since I wasn't expecting that character to die right then.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
holy. Him to at least at last like the entire first act. No, he's gone in the first quarter.
Well, and it really solidifies Selena's character.
It does,
as this, like, she is like way far gone. So when the rest of the film progresses and you see little traces of humanity start to come back to her, it's really like sweet to see that her character like gets some hope back in her life after she just like would do something like that. And she's convinced that that's her life from now on. But,
it's really sweet.
Yeah.
But yes, you wanted to talk about your gripes with this movie.
I guess just a couple gripes. The cinematography, I really liked it. And this is also partially something that they did in the early 2000s as well. Really quick editing on action scenes to the point that it's kind of hard to even tell what's going on.
Like cross-cutting?
Kind of. Well,
okay.
Yeah. Like just really close-up shots of like main characters and zombies. It's dark. You can't see what's happening 100%. And I get it. It adds to like the frenetic energy of the movie and like the quick pace of like, oh my God, it's a sudden zombie attack. But it did bother me just because I couldn't tell what was happening.
I can kind of see that. One scene that comes to mind is like when the general comes out to like look for, because Jim actually escapes his execution.
Yeah.
So when the general comes out to look for him, he gets attacked by some infected people, and I remember just watching, like, he's sitting in the front seat of a car, and a bunch of infected are coming at him, and it's cutting very, very quickly from the infected to him, and then all of a sudden one of them jumps onto the hood of the car and he shoots through it, but you don't see the shot, you just see him.
I actually, I mean, I know
that might have also been a form of censorship because
it might have been, plus the small budget. I know what you're talking about. It bothered me personally the most at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really didn't like the first opening. I like the concept in theory. It's how the virus breaks. These like animal rights activists are coming to free these monkeys that are being tested on.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
yeah, these monkeys that are being just kept in, cruel, inhumane conditions, and the scientist in the room is like, no, you can't. We are doing an experiment. They're infected, and they're like, no, man, PETA, we got to free the animals. Which, 100%, I love animals.
I love animals too.
But in this situation, just leave the monkey in the cage.
Not when they're infected monkeys. Like you can't possibly.
Yeah.
Like that. If they hadn't done that, this whole movie wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, but specifically in that opening shot, very dark, very quick cutting, and the camera was very close up, so it was very hard to distinguish certain parts for me. As the movie went on, I got used to it or it got less because I didn't notice it as badly. That was a little tiny gripe I had with it. The other gripe I had, I thought Hannah's actor did a very bad job at delivering dialogue and conveying emotion.
I can kind of get behind that. She was very, very stone-faced.
Almost never one line that she delivered did I really believe that she was actually feeling the emotion behind it.
I mean, especially when things started ramping up, in the second act. In the first act, it was less noticeable because everything was more calm.
Sure, yeah.
But as soon as things started getting worse, she kept the same tone.
Yeah, in the second act,
how can you be relaxed?
It's much more apparent. And when her dad dies in front of her, her emotion is just not there.
Yeah, you'd think she'd be destroyed.
It should be something really powerful, and the actress just does totally not deliver on the emotion that should be there.
I mean, I feel like she still does physical acting regardless. It's just more of the line delivery that was kind of a meh for me.
I suppose the physical acting was all right, but even her facial expressions, I did not see much going on. She looked pretty, like you said, stone-faced.
Yeah. I do have one gripe with the movie, if you'd let me, because we do have to go for our second break and come back because we are running out of time, but the shoehorned romance plot.
I had that in my notes.
Okay.
I liked it.
You did?
Yes, I have in my notes here.
Okay.
The stereotypical aspects of the film, dream sequences, love subplots, loss of main characters, are done fantastically, and they did not feel obligatory or forced to me.
Okay.
I really liked it.
Okay, I get the dream sequences were done well. I liked those. I just think that the forced... I feel like, especially at the beginning, the fact that, Selena... we're talking about Jim and Selena.
Mm-hmm.
Because they eventually end up together because, they've been together for the whole movie.
Right.
But... basically they joke about it at the beginning. They're like, what, you wanna be with me or something? Or don't expect a romance out of this kid. And then later on you're just like, oh, they're gonna end up together. And it didn't subtract from the movie at all for me. It was just kind of why? They could have gone the entire movie just being a wonderful duo.
I kind of bought into it because
really?
he had this. It's set up very clearly from the beginning. He's got an optimistic viewpoint that there are still things worth living and fighting for, and she says, nope. The best possible life you can live now is to just be alive. There's nothing that's going to elevate it. And so as the movie progresses, and she sees Frank and his daughter. And, learns that, not everything in the whole world is completely destroyed and gone. And she comes around to see Jim's point of view. And Jim is he's not rubbing it in her face or anything. And I feel she might almost see Jim as being oh, you helped pull me out of this dark, mindset that I was in.
Okay.
That's kind of how I interpreted it, and I actually didn't mind it.
That makes sense. I mean, it's also just kind of me. I'm not one for rom-coms or romantic movies. I mean, if a relationship is done in a movie and it's done tastefully, fine, go for it. But I just don't. It immediately takes me out when it's it's an action movie, but there's also a woman and man. They just do things, and I'm like, come on, don't.
Yeah. No, I personally didn't mind that. I actually thought it was done quite well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree it was done well. It was just kind of I feel like it was kind of shoehorned. I don't know, but
not for me personally.
Might be just me though. So, do we want to take our last break and come back and do some trivia?
Yeah, on that note, we'll go to our last break really quick, and then we'll come back and do some trivia and see what our next movie is going to be. Stay tuned.
All right, we are back.
We're back. We may have disagreed on the love subplot, but we do agree that it is time for trivia. Lauren, would you like to start?
Sure. So we kind of touched on it before, but You mentioned that Selena at the beginning of the movie was very hardened, very, very no nonsense, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know Selena's backstory? Because it was never mentioned in the movie.
Okay, I was gonna ask if it was mentioned in the movie. I know there's like some comics and graphic novels that were made after this movie came out. That might be where her backstory comes from. So no, I can't say that I do actually.
All right. So apparently, Selena was forced to kill her infected mother and father to save her baby brother, only to discover that her brother was also infected.
Oof.
Which also would explain her original coldness towards Jim when he wanted to go back for his family to see if they're alive.
I mean, yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. The screenwriter of this film, Alex Garland, has written and directed several other critically acclaimed films. Can you name one?
Say the name again?
Alex Garland.
Alex Garland. Oh, gosh.
All of his films are pretty recent that he's made.
I had them in my brain, but my brain is not working right now, so I'm going to have to bail on this one and say no.
Okay.
I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. He directed the movie and wrote the movie Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. I was thinking about Ex Machina.
Which is a very good sci-fi movie. And Annihilation as well he wrote and directed. I love that movie. That movie is so good.
We might have to review those.
Oh, man, yeah. He's great.
All right. Who was the original choice to play Jim?
Ewan McGregor.
Yes, it was. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. But for a bonus point, who was offered the role after McGregor had... Because the reason why McGregor couldn't take the role was because he actually had a falling out with the director.
Oh.
I think it was in the movie Beach. The Beach.
Oh, okay.
I'm not really sure. That was just what IMDb told me. But who was offered the role after the falling out?
I remember reading this, and I don't remember the second actor's name. And I know you're going to tell me, and I'm going to go, oh, yeah, that's it. No, who was it?
Ryan Gosling.
Oh, yeah, that's it. No.
Imagine how different the movie would be if Ryan Gosling was the main protagonist instead
of
yeah.
Cillian Murphy looks the part. He looks very like...
He's not buff. He's not like he's not Herculean. Like, he's very, very lanky.
He's not traditionally good looking. He is not. He is handsome, but he's not not like in the Ryan Gosling sense of it.
Basically.
Okay. How do they manage to film? Oh, this is my next trivia question. How do they manage to film the shots of deserted London on a $5 million budget? What did they have to do?
You mean like the street shots or like?
Yep, the street shots to get those long like seemingly empty, abandoned London shots.
Because I know they were able to film the hospital ones because the hospital was only open 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So they were able to come in and film on a weekend when there was nobody there. But other than that, I don't know.
They had to talk to the police, asking to close the roads. They closed the roads at 4 a.m. and started shooting immediately so that there would be very little traffic. In order to prevent angry drivers, Danny Boyle used attractive young women, including his daughter, to make the requests that they were shooting film. And apparently it worked.
Okay, well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess here's my last question.
Okay.
What notorious horror creator is a huge fan of this movie?
Is he still alive?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Stephen King?
Yes.
There we go.
It is the man himself, Stephen King. He not only bought out an entire showing of this film in NYC, he actually paraphrases one of Selena's lines in Dr. Sleep.
Really?
He needs us more than we need him.
Oh, that's cool. I still have yet to see Dr. Sleep.
Yes, me too. Well, I mean like the book, but yes.
Oh, yeah, the book too. Yeah.
All right, so that's all the trivia questions I have. So do you want to hear what movie I have recommended for next week?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite horror movies. I watched it around the same time that I watched Texas Chainsaw for the first time, but for next week, I would like us to watch Reanimator.
Oh, okay. I think I know this. I've definitely heard the name before.
It's Jeffrey Combs.
Okay, I've definitely heard the name.
I love this movie so much. It is the story of Dr. Herbert West.
Okay.
And I am so excited to be able to review it because like I said, it's literally one of my favorite horror movies. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, yes. Yeah, I have not seen it. Okay, I'm excited.
So stay tuned for next Monday for our episode on Reanimator, but also stick around for our episode on Friday where we will have another special guest and we will be should we say?
Yeah, we will be reviewing the film Swiss Army Man.
Yes.
With our guest on Friday. So if you want to tune in without being spoiled for Friday, make sure and watch the Swiss Army Man. It is on Netflix. I have not seen it yet, but I've heard good things, so go give it a watch.
All right. Well, I guess that's it from us. Be sure to follow our social media, and we'll see you on Friday.
All right. See you guys.